My name is Blair Scorgie. I am a registered professional planner and urban designer. I'm a sole practicing consultant in my field. I'm also a part-time instructor, academic instructor at Toronto Metropolitan University's School of Urban and Regional Planning.
What are the main changes to the multiplex bylaws that builders should be excited about?
So the multiplex bylaw is, I think, exciting in the sense that prior to the establishment of it, multiplexes were only actually permitted in select zones throughout and select locations throughout the city of Toronto. And now, by virtue of the official plan and zoning bylaw regulations for multiplexes coming into effect, multiplexes are now permitted as of right throughout the city of Toronto's neighborhoods. So any area of the city that is designated for low-rise residential housing, multiplexes are permitted as of right. So what that means is where previously certain zones might have only been permitted to accommodate 1 or 2 units in a detached or semi-detached dwelling, or perhaps row housing or townhouses, now we can have buildings that include 4 units in 2, 3, or 4 units in them as of right. And beyond that, I would say I'm happy to see some sort of regulatory changes to allow multiplexes to actually get constructed in sort of a viable fashion in certain areas of the city. For example, when looking at detached or semi-detached dwellings, certain areas of the city only permitted building heights of 8.5 or 9 meters. Well, that's not enough to actually facilitate a viable multiplex of 3 or 4 units. You need a full 3rd floor. So in introducing the zoning regulations, the City of Toronto created a series of exceptions for multiplexes to allow greater building heights, and a bit more flexibility in terms of the number of unit entrances. They were exempt from floor space index requirements, so density requirements, so that there's fewer roadblocks, there's less red tape, to sort of prevent somebody from being able to build one of these. So that's what I'm excited about.
Who will build these multiplexes and who will occupy them?
The long and short of it is, we're going to see, I think we're creating, or in the midst of creating anyway, a new market for development in the City of Toronto. It's called the missing middle for a reason. Nobody's been building these things at scale for generations in the City of Toronto because they had been regulated almost out of existence. So I think we're likely to see a combination of things happen where, and we actually heard from some people at the conference this morning, some developers who currently specialize at the mid-rise and high-rise scale interested in branching out into this. So some sophisticated established land developers creating perhaps a new area of focus or a new arm that looks at this specifically. I think this also opens the door and possibility for a new sort of generation of smaller scale builders and land developers who specialize in this scale of development. We've also seen that with laneway suites and garden suites since permitting them a couple of years ago. And then I think most excitingly perhaps for me is the opportunity that this presents for quote, citizen developers, people who just own land, want to leverage it to the best of their ability, want to do something, maybe for personal reasons, maybe for financial reasons, maybe some combination of things. But it's at a scale and a level of complexity where individual residents, with the help of consultants and contractors, could potentially realize projects on their own, independently.
Will these changes lead to more construction of affordable homes?
I don't think that there's sufficient incentives currently in the regulations and municipal programs to really do a proper job of ensuring that we're going to see capital A affordable housing units built at this scale. So I think that there's room for improvement there where government subsidies and programs could be put in place to create those incentives. I think the same could be said for ensuring a certain rate of affordability over a certain period of time. But what this will do is it will create supply in new locations where we're not currently creating a lot of supply, and that will allow for filtering. It will create new options, a greater range and diversity of housing options in neighborhoods that haven't previously existed. So by virtue of creating supply, if we can actually sort of scale this appropriately, that should assist, I would think should assist in some capacity in addressing cost escalations in housing, but not directly contributing to the creation of affordable housing necessarily. Now, but I do think there's opportunity and need to address that shortcoming through work in collaboration with municipal, provincial governments to see what sort of incentives and programs could be put in place to ensure that maybe we are sort of protecting for some degree of affordable housing in some of these projects.
What other changes would you like to see to the multiplex bylaws?
I'm in alignment with Councillor Brad Bradford in my sense for the need to allow for more than 4 units to be permitted as of right in neighborhoods. It's difficult to make the financials work with 4 units in many cases, and if we really want to scale this typology, and if we want to make a meaningful dent in the housing crisis, I believe, and I think many believe, that we need to be looking more at either eliminating caps on units and focusing entirely on form, which is one option, or increasing the cap on units to something more in keeping with, say, 6 units in a building and 4 stories as of right. At that scale, I think we're likely to see more of an uptake, and we're likely to see more of a dent in the housing crisis. The other thing I would say is there's an issue with development charges being targeted for anything that has more than 4 units. And if this is something we truly want to incentivize, I think we need to consider right-sizing our development charge bylaw so that we're not adversely financially impacting people who want to build gentle density in neighborhoods. And so currently the trigger is 5 units. So you could have a 4-plex and a garden suite, but the fact that you have all of those on a site triggers development charges and parkland, cash in lieu parkland dedication requirements, which doesn't make that a financially advantageous scenario for almost anybody. But if we could eliminate those charges for something the scale of, say, 6 units, I think we would start seeing quite a bit more uptake at this scale. So those are the changes that I would recommend.